Yeah.
Hello, we are Geeks Assembled, and today we will be discussing a 1967 serial of Doctor Who, the Macra Terror. Lost, missing episodes, shall we say, recently animated for the DVD release in colour and in black and white, so you've got a choice of which you'd like to watch. So without further ado, we'll go around this small little cast and we'll get our opening thoughts on the Macra Terror starring Patrick Troughton. Let's go to Susan and Alex first. What's your opening thoughts on the Macra Terror?
Okie dokie. Well, I really like the Second Doctor's episodes. I am sad that we still haven't found these ones. I mean, anywhere on this whole stinking earth, we're still looking for stuff. Anyway, that's just my thoughts on missing episodes. What can you say? It's a fun story. I mean, I know that we're talking about things that are arguably marginal or whatever, but I actually love the crab creatures. Alex and I had lobster yesterday in honor of watching Macra Terror, and we feel vindicated. We've eaten the beasts. Anyway, that was fun. It was a good episode with Ben getting brainwashed and Jamie never getting brainwashed. Jamie was tough. And Polly was a mixture of emotions, and she had a lot of good parts in it. And the Second Doctor was brilliant. And let's see, the villains were villainous, and actually the ones that were there were a couple that came out of the stupor from the brainwashing of the Macra, and that was fun too. So that's my opening thoughts on the Macra Terror. Here's Alex.
Yeah. All right, now, superfan aside, I do actually enjoy this episode. I heard it on audio. Of course, I am not such a super fan that I can't criticize it, and I'm not such a super fan that I don't know other people that have criticized it and said that it's a very poor imitation of Monster Movie with 1984 from George Orwell. However, it does have its points. Of course, the other point is people can condition and brainwash themselves as well. So in that case, it kind of fails a little bit. But it is a very good sort of homage to Animal Farm and 1984 and all that. I do like it. I do like the points that it makes. But yeah, I can also see people saying that the villain is kind of silly and, it's melodramatic. But that's okay. It's a science fiction show, and it is also, the Doctor doesn't really hide his, disgust and disdain for it, even though he does have to tread the line. The crabs living off the gas, it seems like, is kind of very corny as well. So that doesn't help it. However, the issue is, unlike the other things that we're going to review, the crabs are scary. The people that are running the city are actually pretty scary. Uh-huh. It's also a little bit of a tribute to a totalitarian regime. It is a little creepy that they're using music, but then again, they didn't have social media back then. And if they redid it, they'd be using social media to brainwash people. So, and of course, that's the other thing, because you could technically get hypnotized or brainwashed in your sleep. However, there's supposed to be a rule that you are are not supposed to do something that you really don't agree with. However, it's fictional as well. So, according to what I've read recently in the last 15 years, you're not supposed to get hypnotized or brainwashed that you do something that your conscience is totally against. However, again, there is such a thing as conditioning. So, like I said, I can see the points, even though it's melodramatic. I do like it. I do like what the doctor is saying. You know, be careful to the voices that you're listening to. Be careful, you know, who you serve. And it is kind of interesting that, you know, Ben and Polly seem to be kind of weak in a sense. Even though the doctor does take a screwdriver to the wall units and all that while they're sleeping, and also the other type of gas that they're using to sort of hypnotize them. Um, so yeah, I do like the story a lot. Yeah, there should have been a better villain. Yeah, it should have been technically a lot more scarier, but this is also the era of Doctor Who where you have, you know, 12 to 16 parts to a serial and to a story, and you have to have the cliffhangers as well, because just like Batman from the 60s and the 40s, you don't have the whole story at once. You watch either one episode or two episodes, and then you have to come back to the theater or the TV show, and you watch the third and fourth part or whatever. Um, so yeah, I do like it actually. But I know a lot of people that say it's just too simple. The villain isn't scary enough, and the similes are too obvious. And I say, well, it's 1967. You can't compare it to 2017. In some respects, you can't, because there's been too many decades after.
Thanks for that, Alex. We'll move over to Harry. What's your opening thoughts on The Macra Terror by Ian Stewart Black?
I have to admit, I've only seen the recons, and I've seen a little bit of the anime, the black and white anime, not the color anime. But what I've seen of it, it didn't impress me that much. Those of you who think, oh, well, we're going to get to see the full crab, all you get to see is the claw. It was too expensive to build a full-fledged crab, so all they did was build the claw. And then that was trouble for Annika to get into for those sequences. The story, it's not bad, but I just wish they'd had more out there for me to look at. Because as I said, I didn't get to see the full-fledged stuff on YouTube. I could only watch the recons. And they were only in bits and pieces, but what I did see that the recons worked a lot better for me than the animation did. Because the animation, I hate to say it, the animation put me to sleep. And that's saying something, because normally I enjoy a good story, whether it's animated or not, but I'm sorry. Macra Terror is not one of in my opinion, not one of the better Troughton stories. I'll just leave it at that for now.
Yeah, you can't please everybody all the time. Yeah, it's a good story. It's a simple story, as it's been said. It's you don't have to think about this one. Yeah, it's about a colony under siege from the Macra Terror by Thought Control, which that's all it is really, and it's the Doctor comes and arrives and defeats them by the end of it. The animation, I'm glad they're animating these missing episodes, because the animation, in my opinion, does look really, really good, black and white or colour. I prefer to watch it in black and white because you get the feel of the original. And the acting in it, you know, thank God we've got the soundtrack still, because if we didn't have that, no animation. It's, yeah, the acting in this, Patrick Troughton's on top form, you know, three companions, Ben, Polly and Jamie. You can't fault them. I agree with the, you know, Ben and Polly being made to look sort of weak, but I think all the serials after Hartnell left with Ben and Polly with Troughton, they were sort of made weak characters. I think this is where they were sort of phasing those two characters out, and you know, bringing in new faces. You know, but it's still good characters. Yeah, because you know Ben got conditioned and Polly have really much to do apart from being dragged away by the crab in the animation, being dragged away by the crab and stuff like that. Yeah, Troughton's Troughton. You know, he's a wonderful doctor. And it's a simple story. It's 4 episodes, and it's I'll say one of the highest ratings of the 60s, I would say, because what was it now down here? Episode 3 got 8.5 million on its own viewers, you know, which isn't bad for 1967. So yeah, it's I enjoyed it. I enjoy any sort of Troughton stories, and I'm just glad they are animating them. And I think they should animate all the missing ones, just so we can see what it would have been like.
Agreed.
Yeah, there isn't that many now that haven't animated. There's only, is it 19 stories what they haven't done now?
A bunch of them missing. If I had my dithers, I know which 2 off the top of my head I'd want to see animated. For Troughton, I went Fury of the Deep. I love when I read that book. I've read the book, but I've heard that story, seen little clips of it. I want that one animated. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I want that one. If I had to go Hartnell, it's a toss-up. Hartnell, it's either Marco Polo or the Crusades.
Mm-hmm.
Being a historian of sorts, those 2 appeal to me.
Yeah, I agree. Well, any of them, I'd be happy with just any of them. But next year, we are getting the faceless ones. So.
Oh, cool.
That's great.
Oh, that's good.
Some work done by Malcolm Hulk, book done by the late Turnstix.
Yeah, that's. I think it's coming out March time, I think, in the UK. So most probably you guys in America will be getting it later again.
Yeah, we still haven't gotten the the DVD of the animated of Macra Terror.
Yeah, that came out in March over here. So
Lucky.
I know. Well, so let's go to whatever you watched or listen. I mean, some listen to the soundtrack, some listen to some watch the recons. I watched the newly animated 4 episodes, which I absolutely love. So while Susan and Alex are on mic, favourite moments or things what you wasn't so keen on?
Okay, well, the cool thing is that they tried to bring the Macra back in the story Gridlock with the 10th Doctor, and that was really cool. They had so many characters in that story. It was just like bouncing from character group to character group, you know, in that story. That was quite fun. And the thing that you know, this is the one right before Faceless Ones, and that's the one where Ben and Polly depart because they're actually in their right time and on Earth and in and you know, at the airport. So you know, it's a good landing point, so to speak, for them. And the parts that I liked, I love the crab in the hallway, eerie, fun. I love the Ben and Polly doing the sleeping through and Jamie staying up and going, what the hell is going on here? And he was so fun. And then I love the dancing at the end. I love that the what did Alex call it? The cheerleaders? Anyway, yeah. So I love those parts, and that's my. Yeah.
Okay, well, like I said, I mean, again, I guess technically all the characters are somewhat important. I know that one woman was sort of working and then got a better job, and they had to replace her as one of the characters in the story. And I understand that they have music where they didn't have social media to influence people and sort of give their mind something to do. So you kind of wonder about, how the society functions and how the colony functions. But like I said, again, you sort of have to be a science fiction horror fan because the crabs aren't exactly the scariest thing. They should have chose something better. And the other thing too is, I thought, you know, that's the problem with creatures like frogs and crabs, and I thought they were supposed to be somewhat water. They have to have some kind of water. I understand they don't have to live in it. They don't have to soak in it 24 hours a day, but they need a little bit of water. And I understand they're trying to say gas, but I don't remember too many creatures that even in real life live off of gas, unless you're talking about maybe microorganism. But again, they're rushing it. It's not a bad idea. They had to do a lot of stories back then. From 63 to 89, they had tons of stories and tons of weekly and episodic things and tons of characters that they didn't really move around as much. On the other hand, this is the beginning of Troughton's era. Even though a lot of things are missing, he does, and he still influences as much as Tom Baker. He influences how the Doctor is seen, presented. Just because this Doctor looks kind of simple and kind of only a one piece, or maybe a 1.5 piece suit. That doesn't mean that he's not smart. That doesn't mean that he doesn't know how to talk his way out of things. That doesn't mean that he's cool with everything. And that was great. Just like the Power of the Daleks and Evil of the Daleks, that even I was kind of going, what's he going to do now? And then when he finally gets angry, when he finally makes up his mind, and you don't think that he's figuring it out, but he is. So he sort of set the template, the other part of the template of the Doctor being more of a knight errant and being more fighting for justice, even though it would mean a little bit different in England as opposed to America. But, again, I wouldn't want to live in a colony or a society that is using music and using social media to control me and tell me what to do and force me to work, just like Vengeance on Varos. It is sort of the same. It is sort of the same idea of, you're sort of getting conditioned and brainwashed to do the same three things. I mean, some things you have to do because you're human, but to work 90 hours a week and then to spend the other, remaining rest periods watching TV, yeah, that is kind of conditioning and brainwashing if you think about it. So in that sense, Doctor Who was actually ahead of its time. It was actually ahead of its time in showing Cybermen and showing Daleks and showing the theme music and showing this time machine. So in some ways, it was more ahead of its time than Star Trek and all that, and Twilight Zone and Outer Limits. The problem is they couldn't make it look as good all the time. But the ideas were there, and they actually did more with less budget and less characters. So yeah, I like the story. Like I said, it's melodramatic. It is very much kind of a Big Brother type of situation. Well, Big Brother crabs, I guess, situation. I like it, but again, I've seen people that have gone, "No, that's too simple. It should have been more complex." But then it would have been 6 parts, and I love Doctor Who, but I don't want every single story to be 6 parts. It's too long to watch.
Yeah,
Of course, if sorry, Lee, if you want to be like Harry and have a big novelization, I'm all for it.
yeah.
But again, some people do. Some people do read books. I've bumped into fans where they don't see the TV show on a regular basis. They either read the books or listen to Big Finish.
Mm. I mean, sometimes, as you say, the simple story, but sometimes the simple stories are the better ones. Right. So I don't mind a simple story. Over to Harry. Any favourite moments from the recons or the book? How's the book?
The book was pretty good. I'll give that. It's Ian Stewart Black's third story for the show. He had done previously 2 for Hartnell. He had done The Savages, which was He'd done the savages and he'd done the war machines. So we'd had a little bit of an idea of what he could do. But this was his third and final story he'd done for the show. I'd say if I had to choose a favorite moment, it's the fact that when the Doctor starts figuring out that these sleeps are actually used for brainwashing and mind control, he starts trying to work it out. And it said Jamie, for once, is not the one who falls prey to the mind control. I mean, normally you're expecting, he got to do a part here. No. For a change, it's Ben who's our plucky, hard-headed seaman. He's the one who ends up falling prey to the mind control. So claiming that the Doctor is interrupting everything, that he's making a mess of everything. Very different. I said, I didn't get to see as much as I wanted to. I've read the book. The book's not bad. I said, you don't get to see the recons or until you get your chance to sink your teeth in DVD, get the book. It'll help out a lot. And then when you do get your DVD, you can sit down, watch the DVD, then go back and see what's up was taken out of, was supposed to be aired and put in the books. That specifies I can give people. It's going to be tough because they don't make as many Target books as they used to. It's hard to find them, but you can get your hands on them because they're very good reading.
Yeah, they are. Sometimes the novelizations do flesh the story out a little bit more, which is a good thing. Me personally, I do like this. I say Troughton. I just love the way Troughton plays the fool. He always plays the fool, but you know he's playing the enemy as well. He's playing them, making them think he's the fool. I just love that. I totally agree. It's the Orwellian take on this. Sort of, it's not in your face. It's there in the background. It's a very subtle Orwellian theme, and also the music all the time. You know, we always say that the music in the Gunfighters is annoying. The constant music of the Macra Terror, the ding ding and then the singing and all like that. It's same. It gets under your skin every so often. I enjoy it, and as I say, the animation has added new life to this lost story. And I say, people always comment on the animation. The animation to me, I don't care what type of, because the animation has changed every so often what they do on the DVDs, but we are getting them. We're getting visuals, and that's a good thing. So, I enjoyed it. It's the Macra, and we never knew that the Macra would return, which, as Susan already pointed out, in Gridlocked, but that was a nice surprise when they turned up there. I enjoyed this. So we'll go to final say and scores. So Susan and Alex, final say and scores.
Hang on.
Okay.
Here, you do your final say and scores.
Okay, well, like I said, the execution isn't bad, so I'm going to give this an 8. They could have done it a little better. They could have either added or edited away something. But again, it's not bad. It's not mediocre. It's just that they weren't able to, and they didn't have the technology back then to do, a really good-looking crab. And you do have the 10th Doctor as well with that story Gridlocked, which they use the three main options there to sort of brainwash people. One is the drugs that they put on their neck. I guess it gets absorbed into the skin. Kind of interesting idea. They have the highway, and where you're driving forever. And then you also have, which can also hypnotize you in a way if you think about it. And then they have the news announcements. So they had to modernize it a little bit. Of course, in that one, the 10th Doctor is with a human woman and her cat husband and lots of little cats and jumping up and down between cars. which they wouldn't have done with the second Doctor, especially as long as they did. But it's still not a bad idea. Like I said, they probably should have thought of another creature. But yeah, it's a good story even with all its faults. I like the Orwellian thing. I like the sort of the brainwashing that the society willingly subjects itself to. And the villains are, an interesting idea. Probably should have fleshed it out a little bit. But the characters are also fleshed out as well. So, it's pretty good.
So we listened to one of the recon interview sessions with Ian Fairbairn and Terrence Lodge, I think it was. Yeah. And the story had so much good stuff in it, and these actors really liked playing in this story. They loved working with Patrick Troughton. They loved working with Michael Craze and Annika Wills and Fraser Hines. They just enjoyed this because they didn't have to cover themselves with makeup as they did in other stories that they were both in, and they were just able to be, in just good voice and good gesture and stuff like that. So that was fun for them. The other thing that was really interesting about the Macra Terror was the Patrick Troughton played his recorder in the story, and that's how he showed up and set everybody's mind at ease. And so I love how that the recorder keeps coming up over and over and over again in it's sort of like a catchphrase for him. It's actually, there to make things really cool. And the other thing that's really awesome about the thing is that Michael Craze, Ben, and Polly are they aren't like, they aren't coupled together all the time. They split them off into individual parts, which was different for them because they weren't always like that. And so with all of that new information, I'll just give this an 8.5. It was a good time to watch it. I watched part of the animation and then, had to listen to the audio with a little bit of CGI 3D animation, junky stuff thrown in, but it was really cool to revisit this story. Thanks for thinking of it, and that's us for this.
Well, it's not. We'll be coming back to you later on, Susan, for your rendition of the Doctor Who theme on the recorder. But and you think I'm joking? We've got a latecomer in, Beefhead, but we'll go to Harry first, and then we'll go to Beefhead with his thoughts on this. Harry, what's your final say?
My basic feeling is it's not a bad story. It's not a great story, but it's not a bad story. I'd give the story a rating of a 5. I'd give the book a rating of a 6 because the book fleshes it out more. I may change my rating of the story itself once I get a chance to sink my teeth into DVD. But for now, I'll stick with a 5 rating. There's not much more I can say. Just having seen a little bit on YouTube of the recons, I tried watching the animation. The animation just didn't work for me. It was so
It was pretty junky.
Everything. Couldn't see what was going on and everything.
Well, you
couldn't tell who was who and everything.
Well, you actually see the proper animation.
Well, no, but
I will probably change my vote on the story itself when I finally get the DVD here in the States. But until then, I'm giving it a 5.
Cool. Well, we've lost Beefhead. I was just going to go to him. He's disappeared now. So I'll give you my bit then. Yeah, enjoyed it. The they should animate them all. What are missing now? I don't care if they do find any more episodes. They need to animate them, get them out there for the fans. Troughton, you know, you can't fault Troughton. So good team, good TARDIS team, simple story, some good supporting cast. For me, I'm going to give this an 8. It's a very underrated story, and it should get more. It should get more love. This one. So, you know, I'd like to thank you guys for talking about this. Please, if you want to join us, you know, leave a comment, get in touch with us. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're all over the place. So before we go, Susan, I'm going to say something then.
Nope.
Oh, well, you will be in a minute. Before we go, we're going to have a 15-minute rendition of the Doctor Who theme played on the recorder by our very own Susan. Over to you, Susan.
Okay, that's all.
Oh, she shortchanged us, folks. She shortchanged us.